2026. And again, emphasizing a commitment to strong fiscal management, balancing tax relief with efficient government services while maintaining a high quality of life for the people of the state of Utah. Now, the first proposal that I want to talk about is dealing with taxes. We have been very fortunate working closely with our legislature over the past 4 years to have cut taxes more than any administration in our state's history. In fact, I can easily say that if you combined all of the tax cuts in the history of the state of Utah, we have significantly cut taxes more than all of them combined. $1.2 billion over the course of 4 years. The largest tax decrease by any administration before that was $240 million. So we're talking close to 5 times a bigger cut than any other administration. And we are not done. If you look across the United States, sadly, we will. Fortunately, we lead the nation in almost every positive category, except one. We are one of only 9 states that tax Social Security benefits. There is one of those 9 states, West Virginia, is phasing out completely their taxes on Social Security benefits. I think it's an embarrassment that we are one of 8 states that still does that. Now, over the course, when I talk about that $1.2 billion, some of that we have rolled back Social Security taxes on those who have the least amount of income in the state. But I truly believe it is time, and we have an opportunity right now to do this, to completely eliminate Social Security taxes in our state. This will help the most vulnerable in our state, our seniors, especially those living on a fixed income. We can do this. We can do this year, and I think we have a moral obligation to do this year. And so I hope, for those of you listening and those of you at home, if you are a senior, or if you hope to become one someday, I hope that you will reach out to your legislators and let them know that you support eliminating the Social Security tax in our state. This will directly benefit approximately 150,000 seniors in our state. And again, these are our grandparents. These are our veterans. These are our neighbors, our friends and family members, and these are us someday. And so this is the time. This is an opportunity. In practical terms, this will be about $1,000 in savings, an average, over between $900 and $1,000 average savings for those seniors who are paying taxes on those 150,000 seniors. Now, we could do another 5 basis point increment and save you and me $15 a year, or we could save my grandma $1,000. I think it's an easy call, and I think we have a moral obligation to do this, and I would urge the legislature to seriously consider once and for all cutting this tax and supporting our seniors. We know that our demographics are changing. We're lucky to be the youngest state in the nation. And we hope that continues. Please keep having kids. It's really important. But we know, if you look at the numbers, we are aging. We're a little behind the rest of the nation. And so aging brings lots of challenges. And we want to address some of those other challenges as well. Let me talk about those. In addition to this tax cut for our seniors, we're working on an initiative that we're calling the WISE initiative for our senior population. WISE stands for Wealth, Independence, Security, and Engagement for all of our seniors living in this state. So a couple other proposals. We're proposing increased home-based care funding that will promote independence and reduce reliance on costly institutional care. We want our seniors, our family members, our grandparents to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can. That's good for them, it's good for our families, and it's really good for our communities. We're also proposing increases in funding to help prevent fraud and exploitation of our seniors. Sadly, too many of our seniors have been targeted for fraud by evil people out there, and we want to do more to help them avoid those significant losses that take place when we have exploitation and fraud that occurs. We also want to increase funding for investment in healthy food, our Meals on Wheels programs and others across the state that are delivering services to our seniors who need them the very most. I would be remiss if I also didn't talk about our veterans today. We're so proud of our veterans and the service that they have given our state. We've done much over the past few years, and we want to do even more for our veterans and those currently serving and who will serve in our National Guard. So a couple of years ago, we were able to eliminate the state tax on military retirement pay, and that has been a huge blessing to our senior veterans who are living here and retiring in our state. We also put $500,000 towards this past year a Veterans First Time Homebuyer program that is helping our veterans get into homes. We're talking about we're here at the Veterans Home today, and we know that we need a new one. And so with the help of the legislature, we put $35 million towards that. The federal government has put an additional $35 million towards that, and construction will start soon. But there is more that we can do. Sadly, we know that suicide is higher amongst our veteran population than the rest of the population here. We need you to stay, and we want to help make sure you stay. And so we're proposing additional funding to help with suicide prevention amongst our veterans. We're also proposing funding for the Veterans Cemetery to help make sure that we're honoring those who have passed on, who have served our country so dearly. For our National Guard, we are proposing $1.6 million in the form of tuition assistance and $3.4 million for recruitment and retention bonuses. We need the next generation to serve, and we hope that they will consider serving with our National Guard. We want to make that easier for those who are willing to put on that uniform. Now, we've divided these kind of our budget this year into three different categories: people, places, and prosperity. I'm going to invite Lieutenant Governor up to the stage to talk a little bit more about our people.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. Here in Utah, we value strong families, and our administration for the past 4 years has worked really hard to make sure that we are helping to strengthen Utah families. This coming budget year, we are hoping to continue that trend of ours. We want to make sure that we have a strong foundation with our families. So we're dedicating $258 million in this budget to strengthen families and support recent legislative efforts in this space. And I'll just throw out some notable recommendations. It includes expanding the child tax credit to include all children aged 0 to 4. Right now, it's ages 1 to 4, and we want to include the infants as well. We are going to recommend $3.7 million to safeguard children by managing cell phones in schools. This is for the pouches the legislation passes to keep cell phones out of kids' hands during school hours. This is for the pouches to help secure those phones during school hours. We're going to continue to invest in school safety measures. This is very, very important to us. I know it's important to everyone. Make sure that our school kids are safe. And $133 million to provide resources for school safety. And also $7.1 million in funding to combat hunger for school kids. Taking the reduced lunches and making those free for kids who qualify for reduced lunches, and then making sure that during summer months that those kids are fed as well. We also are increasing child care facilities in Utah. We've set aside $3 million for child care service infrastructure and supporting foster care efforts that help provide safe and stable homes for vulnerable children, nearly $6 million for that. We also know that Utah thrives when Utahns are engaging in service and giving back. That's good for everybody, the one who's receiving the service and the one who's giving the service. So we are recommending continued encouragement of service and leadership and civic leadership by continuing our One Utah Service Fellowship with $2 million in funding. We're also stepping up for those who need us the most. We've got $85 million in this budget dedicated to vulnerable populations. We're recommending continued support for victim services by enhancing support systems, strengthening outreach and training efforts, continuity of vital services such as victim notification and reparations. In addition to continuing our work on alleviating homelessness, we're also recommending combating the opioid epidemic with investments to prevention treatment, recovery efforts in our correctional facilities and throughout rural Utah. And with that, I'll turn it back to Governor Cox.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Next, we want to talk about place and the things that make this place so special to all of us. You've heard me talk a lot about the American dream, about the Utah dream, about the need to lower the cost of housing. And let me be clear that that is still our #1 priority. We will not waver for that. You will see several pieces of legislation to continue to work on increasing the supply of housing. But we know that there is a second issue that is hurting our country and hurting our state, and that is the price of energy. We do have an energy crisis in our state and in our country right now, but it is one that we can absolutely solve. I appreciate the media who's here with us, who covered our announcement about Operation Gigawatt several months ago. We are continuing on that theme. We have to double the amount of energy being produced in our state over the next 10 years, maybe more than double that, and we know that we can do it. We know that Utah can lead the nation in energy production. We should not only have plenty of low-cost energy for the people who live here in Utah, but we should be able to export that low-cost energy to other states and other nations as well, because that's who we are, and that's the abundance mentality that we must be thinking with. So, to that end, we are proposing $20 million for nuclear energy development in the state and $4.2 million for geothermal energy production in our state. These investments, these forward-thinking investments, will help position Utah with the private sector, attracting those private sector investors to come to Utah to help build those nuclear facilities, to build those geothermal facilities, and to make sure that we have the energy we need for the future. We understand that we must reject these false choices that keep being presented to us. This false choice of we either have to grow and have housing for our kids and grandkids and have them be able to live here, or we can have a beautiful environment and take care of the water, have enough water that we need. We can do both of those things. And so to that end, I want to again thank the legislature for the incredible investments in water conservation over the past 4 years. Over $1 billion in water conservation, in watershed management and infrastructure as well, to help preserve the Great Salt Lake and all of these incredible other watersheds that are so important to us. We're recommending another $16 million to secure water leases and $7.9 million to manage the lake and its surrounding wetlands. That's in addition to the $1 billion that we've invested over the past couple years. We are determined to preserve this incredible resource for future generations, and as we announced this week, that's in addition to the $50 million that the federal government has just awarded us with these same efforts in and around the Great Salt Lake. Now, I want to talk about prosperity. Utah's economy is one of the strongest in the nation, and our budget reflects our commitment to keeping it that way. One of the ways that we continue to be prosperous is to invest in our kids. Education is the key to prosperity. And so, we know that public education is critical to everything we're trying to accomplish. We are recommending $760 million dedicated to our K-12 public schools. This includes a 4% increase to the WPU. To put that into perspective, again, back to kind of the normalizing of our budgets, if you look at fiscal years 2012 through 2019, 2020, we averaged about a 3.6% increase in the WPU. So we're excited to be able to recommend 4% this year. We're also supporting our incredible teachers. I want to thank them for their sacrifice and service to our state with $75 million for paid preparation time. We know this is something that our teachers love, and they're grateful that they can get paid for those preparation hours. We're also recommending $8.4 million to help prospective teachers with student teaching. My wife was a student teacher many years ago, and we have these incredible student teachers who are out there doing their jobs, teaching our kids, and they don't get paid for it. We think it's time to change that, and that will help new teachers who want to join the ranks. We desperately need more teachers, and we want to pay you when you're in the classroom teaching our kids. We're also recommending $8.4 million to help reimburse teachers for classroom supplies. No teacher should ever have to pay for those supplies out of pocket, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. We're also excited to recommend $3 million for something new. You'll see some legislation around this coming session, what we're calling the First Credential for All program. This will help students attain concurrent enrollment credits as well as career and technical education programming at our local education agencies. We want every kid who graduates from high school, we want them all to graduate from high school, and we want them to graduate with a credential so that they are well on their way to whatever they want to do next in their life. This will put us ahead of every other state in the nation if we're able to do this, and I have no doubt that we will be able to do this. I appreciate Rich Nye, who recently joined our team, former superintendent of one of the largest school districts in the state. We're excited to have his leadership working with several legislators on this new program. In addition, to what the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, the $133 million for school safety, which I can't underscore enough. We passed some of the most comprehensive school safety legislation in the country this past session, and now we have to fund it, and we have to take care of our schools and take care of our kids. We're also recommending $50 million for small school district capital needs. We have some very remote schools. They could double, triple, quadruple their taxes on everyone in their neighborhoods and in their counties, and they would never be able to pay for a new school or for the repairs that they need to existing schools. And so we want this capital fund to help them. Now to higher education. Utah is frequently recognized for our skilled workforce, and that's because we invest in opportunities for upward mobility through education. I'm so grateful and proud of the system of higher learning that we have in this state. Certainly higher education has been going through some transformation. There's been some hard discussions that I believe are necessary and important, and I'm grateful that those are happening, and I'm grateful for the changes that have been made to our system of higher learning in this state. I want to give a shout out to our incredible Board of Higher Education. They are doing some of the best work anywhere in the country right now, and we're grateful for their leadership. We desperately need the best system of higher education in the country. That helps us maintain our prosperity. And to that end, we are recommending $178 million for higher education, including $2.5 million for technical colleges to expand their programming, and $22 million for performance-based funding that will promote student success and align higher education with today's workforce needs. We also support the recent discussions. We've been engaged in those discussions regarding the in-depth review of curriculum and programming in all of our colleges and universities to help, again, better align higher education curricula with the workforce needs of today. I want to talk just for a moment about rural Utah. We so appreciate those who live in rural parts of the state. Of course, this is very personal for me as someone who lives in rural Utah, someone who grew up in rural Utah, someone who raised their family in rural Utah. Over the past 4 years, again with the help of the legislature, we've been very proud to invest over $300 million in rural communities since 2021. This year, our recommendations include $10 million for economic development grants and low-interest loans and advanced infrastructure and capital improvements throughout rural Utah. We are also recommending $3.4 million for rural EMS, emergency medical services. Sometimes in our most remote parts of the state, when bad things happen, it can take upwards of an hour to get EMS services there. We want to help change that, make sure that EMS has the support that they need in our rural areas, and that they're taking care of those who are struggling and those who need it in a timely manner. Of course, none of this approach to fiscal responsibility and none of the amazing changes that are happening in our state would happen without our state government employees. I'm so proud of them. I feel so fortunate. I just want to throw out a quick number. If you go back over the last 20 years, we've grown as a state tremendously. Do you remember the number, Sophia? I shouldn't have done this. 45%. I knew it was close to 50%. Thank you. Thank you. The state has grown 45%. I put you. I know the second one. Just testing her out here. So as a state, we've grown about 45% as a state during that time, and the number of state employees have only grown by 7%. Okay, so I want you to think about the added load that has come to every state employee over that time period, and 45% growth as a state, 7% growth in state employees. That's because we're fiscally responsible, and it's because we have the best employees anywhere in the nation. We're willing to do more with less every single year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're very proud of you. We're grateful for what you do and how you do it. And so, there's something that we started in our administration a couple of years ago. It's called our Customer Experience Initiative. This is a specific and intentional opportunity to help Utahns tell us when we're doing a bad job. Most people don't like to hear when they're doing something wrong. It's easier not to take that feedback. We've taken the exact opposite approach. We want the feedback constantly. And I can tell you it's working. We have the data. It's in the budget book. We'll share that. Hopefully all of you will get a copy of it. You can find it online. We want you to see those numbers, the improvement that has happened over just the past year or two with this customer service initiative. It makes it possible so anytime anyone engages with state government, they can click a button, they can scan a code, and they can immediately give us feedback. If you're at a state park and there's a bathroom that hasn't been kept up, you can let us know immediately. We can go out and fix it. If you're receiving benefits from the state and something's not working right, you've had a bad experience with someone at the DMV, you can let us know that immediately, and we can fix that immediately. And that's exactly what we're doing. We appreciate the legislature investing in this. We're recommending an additional $2.8 million to expand this program so you can tell us when we're doing a bad job and we can do a better job. We are also recommending $173 million for compensation to our state employees. Again, to make sure that we're treating you fairly and that we will never be able to pay you as much as you can get somewhere else. We know that. But that's one of the cool things about state government, is that we have so many people who are willing to make less to do these jobs, to give back. But we also want to make sure that you can take care of your families, that you can raise a family here in the state of Utah. And so we're hopeful that the legislature will help us with those cost of living increases as we try to keep up ahead of inflation. So again, in Utah, we don't just manage, we actually lead. We invest in our people, we invest in our communities, and we invest in a shared future. We know that we can build a better life for people in this state. We do that by relying. Government can't do everything. Government should not do everything. And that's why we try to be so fiscally responsible. We continue to put money aside for a rainy day. We continue to pay down our debt. I would urge you to go online and you can Google Utah debt and then Google the federal government debt and look at how it's changed over time. Our debt right now is about as low as it's ever been in our state's history because we keep paying down that debt and not borrowing for new debt. The federal government is taking the exact opposite approach, obviously. It's higher than it's ever been and continuing to grow. So thank you to everyone who has helped us to get here. We're excited about these proposals. We hope the legislature will consider them seriously, and we look forward to engaging with them over the course of the next few months. And with that, we're happy to take a few questions. I know we have several media members in the room, and any of us can help answer those questions. If you ask hard ones, I will immediately turn to Sophia.
Governor, we'll take a few here and then break to move the media a bit closer.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Any questions? Please.
Governor, you mentioned the Veterans Cemetery. Looking through the budget, I'm just interested to know what that figure is.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the Veterans Cemetery, like what's going to happen and how it's
Absolutely. Thank you, Governor, and thanks for the question. We have a current cemetery at down at Bluffdale, the Utah Veterans Cemetery down there. One the governor mentioned as well is we're going to establish another one up in northern Utah at some time in the future as well. The legislature, we have some money to do that. It works with a VA grant as well up there. Like these facilities, the governor mentioned the new nursing home we're looking at building, replacing this one with as well. Thank you.
And we're trying to pull that number. We'll grab it for you. So this is for operations of the new cemetery. That's what the budget that we're proposing. So we'll get that right over to you.
At $250,000 is what it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Before we do the media script, please.
Taxes.
Yeah.
Why, some people might say a better way to go would be the income tax, because you've gone there before, you've cut income taxes. Food tax is still a hot issue. Why not cut the food tax
Sure.
rather than exempt Social Security?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
So first of all, I want to be very clear. This is an income tax decrease. but it's targeted to our seniors, right? So this is still income tax that we're talking about. And that is, I think, a very important distinction. We know that with the food tax, and again, I've been supportive of removing the tax on food. One of the problems we have is a constitutional problem. The Constitution has a provision in there that divides our funding for state government into different buckets, and we can't spend those buckets in different places. So every year we have this challenge of balancing those buckets and balancing the budget. And we tend to have more in the income tax bucket than we do in the general fund bucket every year. And so the food tax goes into the general fund bucket. The income tax goes into the other bucket. And so because we were supposed to have a vote on a constitutional amendment, because that amendment did not move forward, which would have removed that constitutional provision, that constitutional earmark, and made it easier for us to remove the tax on food. Our hands are kind of tied, Brian. We can't do that until we get a constitutional change. We can't get a constitutional change this year. In fact, the next time we could get a constitutional change is a couple years from now. And so now we are back into the income tax side, and that's where I think the discussion will be. Again, I think giving everybody a tiny cut versus giving our seniors a very big cut, I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's easy. I think I can defend that. I certainly know our seniors can defend that, and I just don't know how many people get excited about an additional $15 or $20. But I know a lot of people living on a fixed income who could use $1,000 right now. Anyone else? All right. Oh yeah, please.
On the energy facilities, the 20 million and the 2022,
Yeah.
the 22 million, are those just to constructing the buildings, or is that going for more operations of the potential of those?
I'm sorry. We're talking about the nuclear.
Yeah,
Oh.
the operation gigawatt.
Yeah. So sure. So what we're talking about there, especially on the nuclear side, is really site selection and site preparation. There's a lot of work that has to go in. Boy, I could spend the rest of the day on how screwed up our energy policy is in this state. Look, from 1967, 10 years from the late 60s to the late 70s, for about a decade there, we constructed, I think the number, sorry, I'm just working off of memory, about 130 nuclear facilities in this country. It was incredible. It was an energy boom unlike anything we had seen before in our nation's history. And then we got really stupid as a country, and we just stopped. There was an accident, yes. We learned a lot from that, and these facilities are safer. The technology is so much safer than anywhere before. We were in France last year. France gets most of its energy from nuclear energy. I was just in Japan, and Japan, even though they shut them down because of the Fukushima disaster during the tsunami, they are opening all of them back up because they realized that was a huge mistake. And so what we have is a regulatory agency that is a disaster. The good news is that there's bipartisan support to fix that. But here's the problem, folks. We can't build stuff in this country anymore. Like, again, we've gotten so stupid as a country. The regulatory overload that has happened in our nation is embarrassing. It's an embarrassment to us as the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's an embarrassment to the rest of the world where they still can build stuff, and we cannot. The only time we can build stuff quickly is when a disaster happens. So go and look at what happened in Pennsylvania when their freeway caught on fire and an overpass fell. Something that would take years to build, they built in a matter of weeks. Look at what's happening with the bridge in Maryland. A boat hits the bridge collapses, and in a matter of days, they are removing debris and getting things rolling again. Why? Because they just said we're going to do it, and we're getting rid of all the dumb regulations. If we could do it then, we should be able to do it now. I've mentioned this before. We approved we recently got approval for a transmission line across the state of Utah. In the past year, we got approval for that transmission line. That transmission line, I got asked to help on that when I was a county commissioner in Sanpete County in 2008. It took us 15 years to get approval to build a transmission line, something everyone knows we desperately need more of in this country. For the first time, finally, to my friends on the left, thank you for waking up and realizing that this is a problem. We have bipartisan support for significant significant reform when it comes to permitting. It has to happen on the nuclear side, but it has to happen with NEPA, it has to happen everywhere else so that we can build this stuff again. Even the stuff, again, look, I understand why NEPA was built. We were also making a lot of really dumb decisions in the 60s and 70s when it comes to protecting the environment. We understand that now. We can do that now. The very clean energy projects, the cleanest energy projects, the most important energy projects that are being demanded by environmentalists across this country cannot be built because we have these stupid NEPA policies that don't allow us to build the stuff we need to build. It's time to stop the madness. It's time to start building nuclear again. It should not take us 15 years to build a nuclear facility that costs 3 times what it was supposed to cost. That's what's happened to we finally got a nuclear facility built for the first time in 30 or 40 years, and it was supposed to cost like 2 or 3 billion. I think it cost 15 or 16 billion or more than that. I don't remember exactly what the numbers are. That is insane. That is insane. It doesn't have to happen, and it doesn't have to be this way. And I'm excited that we have an administration that finally gets that. I've already been talking with Doug Burgum. There's a new energy commission that President Trump has put together. Doug Burgum will be leading that as a Secretary of the Interior. He's one of the brightest governors we have in this country from North Dakota. He understands these issues. We're going to solve nuclear and all the other issues. We have to get that done. Thank you for asking the question that I didn't answer. But one of the big expenses for nuclear is the site selection and the site preparation. And it's very expensive. And so with us putting forward some money to start that process, that will attract, you've heard Meta and others recently announce that there's so much money ready to start building these facilities that we believe that we can lead the nation. There are a couple other states that are doing some of this. Virginia is one of them. But if we can invest this, if the legislature is willing to invest this, we feel confident that the private capital will come in huge numbers and allow us to lead on this. I will also state that I've reached out to my fellow governors in Idaho and Wyoming. We think that this should be a regional project. We can work together on this, and they're very excited about that.
So not construction, just.
Not construction, yeah. It's the regulatory, the beginning of the regulatory piece. Please.
Follow up on that. When you talk about site selection and funding for that, does your proposal have anything built in to encourage looking at rural areas of the state that have historically relied on fossil fuels for their economic base? I'm thinking carbon Emery County.
Sure. Yeah. So yes, that is happening and will continue to happen. I know that Rocky Mountain Power has proposed building some nuclear facilities next to their coal facilities in those same areas. One of the things about power is you have to, after you produce it, you have to get it somewhere. And the way to get it there is where we have transmission facilities. And so it will naturally occur in those places because that's where the existing facilities are. And we're working very closely with those commissioners. We did have some money in the budget last year specifically to work on that. Down in Carbon and Emery counties, we have an energy research facility down there that the state is investing more in. And that's going to really be a hub for everything else that we want to do. So I would say you'll see a lot of this happening there in Carbon County. In Emery counties, you'll also see a lot of that happening in kind of central Utah, in the Delta area. Again, naturally, because we have transmission facilities there, as well as the coal-fired power plant and the new plant that's being constructed right now.
And the 10 million for the rural opportunity loan funds
Yeah.
and grants and loans.
That's right. We have that 10 million for rural grants and rural opportunity, and we suspect that a lot of that will be chosen. We're trying to take a bottom-up approach instead of a top-down approach where we don't go tell rural counties what they need to do. They come and say, this is what we want to do, and we help them to fund that. Anyone else? All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll invite the media to come up. Thank you.
Well done, Lieutenant Governor.
Thanks, Sophie.
Okay, this one's mine.
So, yeah, okay. Just a few minutes.